I'm saying to y'all, though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there, and maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. When you no. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are going to say and Stephen A., I know you're going to, you just shared that you have talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark.
So will Caitlin Clark be a good pro? Absolutely. Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now? Immediately? Absolutely not.
ESPN has finally done the unthinkable. They've acknowledged Caitlin Clark as a WNBA phenom. And by acknowledged, I mean they've reluctantly admitted that this basketball queen is about to break the sports world. Let's be real, if she were any more legendary, they'd probably have to start handing out basketballs with her face on them. So what took ESPN so long? Stick around because we're diving into the insane reasons they couldn't keep ignoring her. Her impact is undeniable, forcing even the most established sports networks to recognize her seismic presence.
I think it's a beautiful time, and I don't think anybody that is a part of this league or has covered this league, sure, we lament kind of keeping this little thing that we love to protect it from all of the noise, right?
Right.
But in the same breath, the eyeballs and the visibility and the growth is better for all involved. I mean, frankly, John, like, Caitlin Clark got me here, right? You know what I mean?
How the tables have turned. ESPN, that illustrious institution of sports journalism, is finally waking up from its nap to acknowledge Caitlin Clark as the basketball phenomenon that she is. The same ESPN that once acted like Caitlin Clark was some sort of niche internet sensation for niche basketball fans, you know, the ones who read actual basketball stats instead of just tweeting about what color socks the players are wearing, her undeniable talent and impact are finally forcing mainstream recognition.
The WNBA season starting to ramp up and media days taking place around the league. Today was media day for the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark prepares for her sophomore season. She won the Rookie of the Year award. She averaged 19 points, 8 assists per game, led the Fever to their first postseason in 8 years. She also finished the season 4th in MVP voting last year. But this season, take a look. Clark is the favorite for the MVP. Slightly shorter odds than A'ja Wilson. That's important because the preseason MVP favorite has gone on to win the award in each of the last 3.
Fast forward a season, and now they're practically falling over themselves to applaud her. Oh, how quickly things change when you start breaking records left and right. But let's talk about last season. Caitlin Clark was out there rewriting history books like a high school kid who just found the cheat codes for his video game. Records. She was breaking them like they were made out of cardboard. But somehow, ESPN decided that wasn't enough. They were more interested in giving A'ja Wilson the MVP award instead. Clark's record-breaking season, however, proved too significant to ignore, forcing a shift in their narrative. If you support Caitlin Clark, subscribe our channel and comment, "CC is the GOAT," down below.
Especially MVP type conversation things. Like, I think she's ready. She know it's her second year. She know what type of physicality is.
Why? Because, I don't know, maybe A'ja Wilson once looked at a basketball court and existed there? Could it have been the whole brand loyalty thing ESPN had going with her? Could it have been the power of a strong social media presence? Maybe they needed a bigger headline for their NBA Twitter account. But let's not forget that Caitlin Clark was out there shattering records like she was on some sort of basketball bender. This stark contrast between Clark's on-court dominance and ESPN's initial focus raises questions about their criteria for recognition.
I think what Caitlin has done for not just college basketball, but for women's basketball, period, I think has been great. The following, people watching the game, sellouts that we haven't seen ever. It just really bothers me, though, when people just take bits and pieces of what they want to take and they don't listen to everything and you don't hear everything. It wasn't personal. One, it was my opinion on how I think she'll be at the next level, because I do remember me saying that Caitlin, to me, could be the the best college shooter I've ever seen. When you put these expectations on these young women in college to go to the next level and be immediately dominant, and when that doesn't happen, then people come back and say, oh, she was a bust, she was a flop, she wasn't that good. Just let them do what they're doing in college, enjoy what they're doing in college, and let them become stars in the WNBA.
The kind of season that made you wonder if she had a personal vendetta against the laws of physics. Yet somehow, someone who didn't break records, didn't shatter the internet, and didn't look like a one-woman highlight reel got the MVP. It's like watching someone get a trophy for showing up to class on time, while the kid who aced every test and built a working robot in the hallway gets overlooked. You know what? Sure, you didn't lose your homework, but let's reward the one who made it through the door. This feels like a baffling decision, prioritizing something other than undeniable on-court achievement.
Stephen A., I would be remiss if I didn't say this. A lot of this noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. But there was a lot of people tried to make sure they keep Caitlin Clark in her place, because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize.
But then the plot thickens. ESPN, a little late to the party as usual, finally decides it's time to throw some praise at Caitlin Clark. Well, color me shocked. I mean, they only spent the entire season seemingly downplaying her impact. I guess they couldn't ignore her anymore when every basketball fan with even a passing interest started calling out the obvious. Clark was playing like a monster, and her stats were laughably better than almost anyone else's. And when the fans, those pesky people who actually watch games, start yelling, hey, ESPN, stop acting like she's some random underdog, you kind of have to pay attention, right? At least, that's what you would think. But no, ESPN in all its wisdom waited until they absolutely had no choice but to admit that Clark was an unstoppable force. They acted like they just discovered gold in their backyard, claiming, oh look, Caitlin Clark is great, who knew? Well, no kidding, ESPN, the whole world knew. But hey, it's better late than never, right? Too bad their delayed recognition can't undo the countless times they acted like she wasn't worth watching. Still, better now than never, I suppose. But the real MVP here is the fans who knew better from the jump, forcing ESPN's hand through their vocal support and undeniable recognition of Clark's exceptional performance throughout the season.
And White actually told me that Clark asked for the scouting report that they used against her when White was with the Sun last year. But I think really what we're going to see from Caitlin this year, it's not just being able to get better on the court. It's also, she's described this greater level of comfort and being that second-year pro player. And I actually asked her today at Media Day how she described where she's at this point this year compared to this.
Now ESPN's like, oh, hey, remember that Caitlin Clark? She's amazing. She's a freaking superstar. Oh, really? It only took an entire season of her dominating for you to catch up? Thanks, ESPN, for finally recognizing what the rest of the world had figured out months ago. It's honestly like seeing your friend who hated a band you loved, and then one day, they're suddenly at the concert with a band t-shirt, acting like they were there since day one. Oh, I've been listening to them forever. Been on this train from the start. Yeah, sure, buddy. Just don't act too surprised when everyone else is trying to remind you of your previous, blatant, and very public ignorance. Let's also talk about ESPN's ranking system, shall we? We all know that ESPN loves to rank players. It's practically a sport within itself. You know what I mean. Just when you think they've ranked someone fairly, they pull some next-level shenanigans that leave you wondering if they were rating based on the same game everyone else was watching. Their sudden embrace of Clark after a season of apparent oversight feels disingenuous, especially considering their often questionable player evaluations.
Look like she's always in great shape, never afraid of the moment. Again, we're talking about Caitlin Clark here. The spotlight been on her for years. She's not going to shy away from it. I expect her to be in the MVP conversation.
Well,
Take last year, for instance. Caitlin Clark, remember her, the one who basically turned basketball into a one-person show, was ranked behind A'ja Wilson. Again. Because why? Who knows? Maybe Wilson has a better PR team. Maybe it's because ESPN's so used to ranking players based on who they've known the longest instead of who actually performed. It's honestly a mystery. So here's ESPN, ranking A'ja Wilson above Clark, even though Clark already had the kind of season you only read about in fairy tales. or perhaps a really extravagant basketball movie. But let's not forget how everything changed now. I mean, who could ignore the irony? After they ranked her lower than Wilson last season, after they seemingly minimized her impact, they are now throwing a parade in her honor. Caitlin Clark is getting praised like she just solved world hunger, and ESPN's acting like they've been on her bandwagon from the start. It's almost sweet, in a way. I mean, sure, ESPN had to spend the entire season seemingly being oblivious, but at least now they've recognized the phenomenon they tried to downplay, albeit after considerable public pressure and irrefutable on-court performance.
We know that the expectations for Caitlin Clark, they are constant and they are high. How does she continue to deal with that?
Well, the thing with Caitlin Clark, Malika, is that she's so self-motivated, and she even described herself to me today as self-aware, that she really knows what it will take to be able to elevate her game from all of that great success she enjoyed in her rookie season to now this sophomore year. One of the things that she mentioned to me today is that right after the Fever hired new head coach Stephanie White, one of the first things that Clark did with the staff was sit down in the film room, and they really dissected her game film to be able to figure out what were the areas that she really needed.
It's almost as if ESPN went from who's this Caitlin Clark person to okay, we get it now. We really get it, in a matter of months. I'm just waiting for the inevitable about face where they act like they were the first to discover her. The I told you so moment will probably come along with a montage of her biggest highlights, complete with some dramatic music in the background. We'll get the slow-moving shots of her draining three-corners from half-court like she's playing a completely different game from the rest of the world. And yes, Caitlin Clark's going to deserve all of that. But let's not forget the part where ESPN literally had their collective heads in the sand last year. To be fair, Caitlin Clark deserves all the accolades coming her way. She's been putting on a show that makes you think, who needs the NBA when we have this? She's breaking records, making history, and generally taking the women's game to a level that would make even LeBron James start questioning his decision to stick to basketball. The sudden shift in ESPN's narrative, while overdue, highlights their initial oversight of her undeniable talent and impact on the sport.
So a lot of people say that Caitlin Clark moves the needle. That is wrong. She is the needle. She dictates. We all know what she's done on the floor. It's history, right? But off the floor, my goodness, she and the Indiana Fever accounted for 45% of all the broadcast value of the WNBA last season. She accounted also for helping drive the numbers of merchandising up 500%. Of course, her jersey.
But let's not ignore the fact that ESPN, in typical fashion, dropped the ball on this one. They were too busy fawning over the same tired stories and playing it safe, while a player who would eventually redefine the game was out here doing things that made you wonder if she had been accidentally born in the wrong era. And the best part is, they can't even pretend they didn't. The proof is in the stats, and Caitlin Clark's stats were borderline absurd. She was literally rewriting what it meant to be a point guard. Her points per game were so high they could have been used as a new standard for scoring in all basketball leagues. She was hitting insane numbers from beyond the arc that had you wondering if she was just standing there with a remote control, casually pressing buttons and making the ball go in every single time. And don't even get me started on her vision on the court. She was making passes that made you wonder if ESPN was paying attention at all, or if they were too busy sticking to their typical programming, which, let's be honest, was probably a rerun of some drama no one cares about anymore. Their delay in fully recognizing her talent, despite her undeniable and statistically remarkable performance, is a clear example of their initial misjudgment.
Great players. That Caitlin Clark, what she's doing doesn't minimize what they've done, but we should have been giving her the credit. We saw the ratings, we saw the merchandise sales, we saw the attendance, but y'all want to make it about something else. Oh, what about the women that laid the foundation? What about this? What about it? That ain't got nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is box office. She's doing this. And instead of giving her credit, y'all tried to make it about, oh, y'all poo-pooing the old.
But now suddenly, Caitlin Clark's the hottest name in basketball, and ESPN can't get enough of her. They'll hype up every move she makes, probably to the point where it's borderline obnoxious. Don't be surprised when the next highlight reel has some slow-mo action shots of her draining shots like she's literally bending the laws of physics. The network that once barely gave her the time of day is now treating her like she's the best thing to happen to the sport since Michael Jordan decided to turn a dunk into an art form. What's truly hilarious, though, is that ESPN can't even pull off the "we always knew" narrative. They can't go back and pretend like they were on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon from day one. It's too late for that. The receipts are there. They were too busy investing in fluff pieces and safe, generic content that overlooked the real talent right in front of them. You can't unsee that, no matter how many dramatic montages they throw together now. Their belated and perhaps excessive embrace of her talent, while understandable given her impact, is a stark contrast to their earlier lack of attention.
Out Caitlin Clark in terms of the BS that she had to deal with off the court. We got to remember she's been box office, she was the main attraction, and there were so many storylines that's been associated with her. Most recently, the whole thing with her and Cheryl Swoops, even though it really wasn't her, it was Cheryl Swoops and all this. Every time you turned around, there was something that she had to deal with. The reason I bring that up, and I love that, because as a rookie, ladies and gentlemen, put this in perspective. Caitlin Clark finished the regular season leading rookies in scoring, field goals made, three-point field goals made, assists, steals, and minutes played, and she led the league in assists and three-pointers made.
Caitlin Clark's ascent feels particularly satisfying given ESPN's initial hesitance to fully embrace her talent. It's akin to someone missing a crucial moment and then attempting to claim credit for the overall success. While they've now enthusiastically joined the chorus of her admirers, their belated recognition feels a bit like playing catch-up. Even a fraction of her standout performances during her rise would have overshadowed some of the athletes ESPN was heavily promoting at the time. It seems ESPN waited until her dominance was undeniable before fully acknowledging her impact, by which point she had already significantly distanced herself from her peers. This delayed reaction underscores a common tendency in sports media: the focus on players who fit a predetermined, marketable profile. Regardless of record-making achievements, attention often hinges on whether a narrative can be easily packaged and promoted. Caitlin Clark, with her extraordinary skill, didn't initially conform to the narrative ESPN seemed to favor, leading them to categorize her as too good to ignore, only after her brilliance became impossible to overlook.
It reminds me of what Dame does. If anybody ever noticed, her first shot always a three. First quarter, second quarter, third. She sets the distance on her first shot, so you have to guard her there. Now she can do whatever she wants to do. She's playing a chess game. That's what Dame does. He starts his game off, he's gonna shoot a deep-ass three to force.
Watching ESPN now scramble to give Caitlin Clark the recognition they should have offered much sooner is genuinely entertaining. It's a clear display of belated acknowledgement, like a student cramming for a test they ignored all semester. You can almost feel the urgency behind the scenes as they piece together last-minute tributes and highlight packages, a desperate attempt to rewrite the history of their coverage. It's a stark contrast to the earlier, more muted approach. And then there are those who advocated for her from the start. They are undoubtedly savoring this moment. Their quiet satisfaction in being proven right is palpable. While personal vindication is sweet, there's a distinct pleasure in witnessing a major sports network publicly play catch-up and acknowledge a talent they initially seemed hesitant to fully embrace. This isn't just about basketball. It's a fascinating look at how media narratives evolve, and ESPN's current push to highlight Clark feels like a moment of overdue reckoning. It's a more compelling storyline than many games themselves.
Last year, and to speak to her, to be around her, she's got charisma, she's got style, she's got bravado, she's got class, she's smart as hell, communicates her thoughts very, very well. She is so incredibly marketable that what she is doing on the collegiate level, her coming into the WNBA, you could just feel, I don't want to use the word resentment at all, because it's not fair to women basketball players out there who may have critiqued her. But what I'm saying is that when you're talking about her greatness, it is perfectly okay for those who have been great to say, okay, let's see what you've got.
It's incredibly satisfying to see Caitlin Clark finally getting the widespread praise she's earned. After essentially carrying college basketball on her shoulders, breaking records left and right, and drawing crowds comparable to major concert tours, it's high time the media fully embraced her impact. The spotlight is exactly where it should be, on her undeniable talent and influence. Now the hope is that next season, the conversation around awards, like the MVP, focuses on performance and impact, not just brand recognition or manufactured narratives. If ESPN were to overlook her again despite her statistical dominance, leadership, and profound effect on the league, expect a strong pushback, maybe even a call for a math lesson. Caitlin isn't just participating in the game, she's reshaping it. The entire world is watching now, and for once, it feels like ESPN is genuinely following her lead rather than attempting to dictate the story. Caitlin, keep dominating. The court is yours, and so is the future of the sport. If you enjoyed leaving a like and subscribing, more videos are on the screen now.